Shrek 2 made me more political by portraying capitalism as bad and, as a result, white supremacy as bad. Since, capitalism causes white supremacy. We'll talk about that more. Hi, cinematics! Welcome back to Tool Cool Cinema, and welcome to Too Woke Cinema. November is election season, and I think it's time that we get fucking political on Maine. What do you say, ladies? It's time for that one woke friend to become everyone's problem, and hopefully Zohran Mamdani wins mayor of New York City. And shout out Prop 50. That's all I'm saying. Also, Free Palestine. Okay, now I'm done. I know November is also it is American Thanksgiving. I just didn't feel like we're celebrating a genocidal holiday right now. Maybe later, just not right now. I'm kidding. I don't feel like celebrating a genocidal holiday ever for the rest of my life, because why? There are so many movies from the 2000s, my childhood, that riddled with political messaging, but I have 4 that really stand out to me, and for Too Woke Cinema, we are going to be talking about the movies from my childhood that caused me to become a little too woke. Wide awake, baby. Caffeine, not for me. I'm already woke, so why don't you chew on that? We are going to be talking about the politics in Shrek 2, more specifically, its portrayal of capitalism and how capitalism affects white supremacy and how those laws and cultures and norms are upheld in the kingdom of far, far away. So strap in, get woke, get your caffeine, get your insulin shot, because we're about to go crazy. Shrek 2 is the sequel in the Shrek series, kingdom, franchise, whatever it may be called, trilogy plus 2 more movies, because Shrek 5 is coming, but it's been pushed back because the internet guessed its storyline, which is giving me really low hopes for Shrek 5. Shrek 2 is objectively the best sequel that's ever existed. Suck it, Godfather 2. You don't hold a match to Shrek 2. You don't even have a fairy godmother singing I Need a Hero. You don't even know what that is. Shrek 2 follows Shrek and Fiona's life after getting married, and Shrek goes to the kingdom of far, far away to meet her racist, prejudice, mean parents. Fiona's racist, prejudice, mean parents. I don't know if Shrek has parents. Maybe they're also closed-minded, but this is about Fiona's parents. And they run into the fairy godmother, who is capitalist nonsense, and a whole mess of shit happens, and somehow Shrek ends up turning into a hunkier version of Josh O'Connor. That is the story, basically. And then fairy godmother sings I Need a Hero while a giant gingerbread cookie fights humans, and then everyone wins. That's literally, if you look on Wikipedia, that is exactly the plot summary. I think I did a pretty good job. So Shrek 2, whether on purpose or not, does a really great job of showing how capitalism affects multiple oppressive policies and just like the intersectionality of things like classism, racism, homophobia, and how those things have stemmed from capitalism. I don't think they did it intentionally, but if they did, that'd be really cool. Capitalism this, capitalism that. What is capitalism? That's a good question. Capitalism is the reason why life is hell, but in more technical terms, capitalism is an economic system where there is private ownership of the means of production. So people own their own farms, their own factories. Land ownership is really big to be able to get ahead or just survive in capitalism. Capitalism is built on 4 key characteristics, which are competition, private property, profit motive, and little to no government intervention. So the capitalist system has one concern and one real concern only, which is profit. Keep making profit at any means necessary. Typically in a capitalist system, what needs to be made is determined by the consumer. So the consumer has a need for something, a company comes up and is like, I'm gonna fulfill this need and make it for money. And then ideally there will be competitors, there will be no regulations or little regulations, and instead of the government deciding what needs to be made for the people, it will be the companies deciding what needs to be made for the people. It's supposed to have this relationship between the private ownership and the consumer. Does that make sense? I did get a C- in AP government, but I did try really hard. So because there is such a focus and a desire and a ruthless just for profit. And with the threat of competition, a lot of companies, economic systems, folks who love money are motivated to become monopolies. And a monopoly is the exclusive control of a product or a service or a good or whatever those words are by one company and one company only. I understand it seems like the US is going very monopoly. I don't know, maybe it will all be under one company like they were showing in BoJack Horseman, although I hope that does not come true. But America more so operates as an oligopoly. And I really hope I said that right. An oligopoly means that there is a small number of larger companies that kind of own everything, which is, I feel like, what's more so happening in the US or happens in the US. It does make it unnecessarily unfair and difficult for newer companies, newer products, newer folks to break into that industry, especially if if land ownership is such a big part of being able to move forward in capitalism. So if you don't own any land, you don't have the means to own any land because all the people who already own land are sucking up all your means to own land, you're done. Bottom line is, capitalism had its place at one point in time. I'll give it that. It was invented to just end the caste system or give people a chance to not just be peasants for the rest of their lives. However, it is trash, and I don't like it. Capitalism gave the way and it was the driving force. I'm not saying racism and homophobia and classism didn't exist and everyone was just like, let's all be equal before capitalism, but capitalism definitely gave it a really big push off the cliff, and now racism and white supremacy and stuff like that. So what is white supremacy, right? That's like also a good question. You guys are filled with such good questions today. I love it. I love it. Keep going. White supremacy is the belief, it's a racist belief, obviously, that white people, whatever white people means, because we're gonna get into that in a second, that white people are superior to those that they deem non-white, and that they should have control of the world politically, socially, economically. And we all see how that has been working out. Not great. And the reason I'm like who they deem white is because the idea of white has changed over the years. There was a point in time, at least in the US, where like immigrants, like Catholic immigrants, like Italians and Irish people were not considered white. Jewish people were not considered white. Like Jewish people who immigrated from like Poland and stuff, not considered white. Like the WASPs were the white supremacy type of white. Like you had to be a very specific type of white to be considered white. It has changed since then, and it will probably change in the future. I don't know. All I know is white people don't know how to wash their butts. That's what it means to be white. Put that in your census, in your US census. Why don't you? Do you wash your butt? No? White person. So there's two different like main types of racism. I think there are two different categories of racism, or how people practice racism, or like what beliefs or ideologies they subscribe to under the white supremacist umbrella. There's like scientific racism or like biological racism, which is like the more obvious one, where it's like, you look different from me, you're stupid and I hate you. That's like one form of racism. They did the whole thing with the like, let's prove that black people are less than us because their eyes are different. And it's like, no dude, that's just like DNA doing its thing. I don't know, whatever. Remember those like old videos of the anthropologists and they're like, let's be racist? I'm like 90% sure it was when Belgium invaded the Republic of the Congo, and when Leopold was just haunting humanity. Good thing he's gone, but his statue isn't gone. So let's get that next, ladies. So that's scientific racism, where it's like, oh, you have brown skin, you have black skin, you have red curly hair, I don't like you, you're weird, you go away. That shit, right? And then the other one, I think it's the second one is like a sneakier form of racism, a sneakier form of white supremacy, which is cultural racism, which is like, people are like, oh, I don't, I'm colorblind, I don't see race, and I'm not racist. But what they don't like isn't necessarily how someone looks, it's what someone's culture is. It's cultural racism, saying the white culture, white American, white European, whatever is the standard white culture, Western culture, is superior to other cultures, right? The whole like, you eat with your your hands, you sit on the floor, you wear a this and that, you wear a hijab. That's so weird. I love being American. That's cultural racism. When people make fun of me for not eating pork, sorry, I don't want freaking pig intestines in my intestines. Maybe I'm just better than you. Maybe my culture is better than your culture. But I don't see culture. I'm culture blind. I'm not racist. You're racist. White supremacy is obviously racist. It is also gives power to other oppressive systems such as homophobia and classism. Mainly because, and like misogyny. But we're not going to talk about misogyny in Shrek 2. But just know, like, all of these oppressive issues, ableism, what have you, are tied up in white supremacy. And that's because white supremacy has very rigid views, culturally, socially, politically, of what is allowed and what is not allowed. White supremacy builds the vision of what a nation should look like, of what a functioning society should look like, and those views are often very oppressive and unaccepting and just burning cross type shit. That's just like I don't like it, okay? Hot take, guys. I don't like the KKK. It's really, I know. Unsubscribe now. There is an associate professor at the Florida International University his name is Julio Capo Jr., and he wrote a book titled Welcome to Fairyland. He wrote it about, part of the book is about the KKK's raid on a gay nightclub in Florida in November of 1937. And Capo wrote that during the raid and elsewhere, the KKK claimed that in attacking gay and queer people, they were preserving the sanctity of white families, white homes, a white nation. And the KKK has a very just unrealistic and rigid view of what family should look like, of what love should look like, of what a man or a woman should look like. So the KKK was built out of white supremacy, and in turn, they are not just attacking people of other races, they are attacking people of other sexualities, queer people, trans people. So homophobia and racism are both like, what are they called? Like, both those messed up oppressive ideologies are being fueled by white supremacy. White supremacy also fuels classism, but just in a little bit of a different way. White farm workers would often accept lower wages because they're like, well, at least I'm not an enslaved person. They would rather have low wages and racial superiority than equal wages and be like, this guy is like me, let's be equal together, dumbass. And there was a moment during the Gilded Age when there was this like rise in agricultural economics. These words are hard. Guys, let me just, okay? Do you know what I'm saying? There was a rise in like farming and farmland, and everyone wants to farm all of a sudden. And there was this the agrarian movement. I looked it up. The agrarian movement. White Southern farmers formed a union in order to get fairer, equal treatment. Right? However, they refused to allow black farmers to join their union, the white people union. As a result, you have two Southern Farmers Unions, the Southern Farmers Alliance, which was the all white people, and the Colored Farmers National Alliance, which was majority black people. I do recall they would allow people who are not black to join. The Southern Farmers Union, racism, segregationists didn't allow that. And as a result, they didn't really get anything that they wanted because they decided to let white supremacy get in the way. And as a result, white supremacy contributed to classism because the working man could not get what they wanted out of the brainwashedness of racial superiority. And what's interesting is the Southern Democrats, which at the time they were Republicans, they were just the more conservative party, Southerners, if you will, moved to disenfranchise black voters, and this was really the start. I don't know if this was also wound up in Jim Crow law. They said you can't vote if you can't read. You can't vote if you don't pay these poll taxes. And as a result, it not only did it hurt a lot of Southern black people, it hurt also a lot of lower class white people. And the lower class white people were like, that's cool, as long as I'm a white person. What? Girl, the classism just was so allowed because white people did not see classism as an attack on themselves. They, at the end of the day, hid behind their shield of white supremacy to be like, I'm poor, but at least I'm white. You're still poor, man. And it's not wrong to be poor, but it's wrong to let your dumbness and your wantingness to be better than people of other races get in the way of you getting what you deserve, which is free healthcare. You get what I'm saying? Because I get what I'm saying, and that's all that matters. I know what you're asking. Sarah, that's a great lesson, but how does capitalism cause white supremacy? I'm gonna tell you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So because capitalism is motivated by just profit, white European colonizers and settlers decided to make it morally okay to steal other people's land and steal other people for labor. It made colonialism was not just like, oh, suddenly we woke up and we're racist, let's go get Africa and Asia and South America. It was motivated by profit, by the need for land. Land ownership is a big deal for capitalism. You need land, you need resources, you need all these things, and you need them to be incredibly cheap, if not free. White settlers sought out to dehumanize other races, other people, other cultures, in order to justify what they were doing. Because if they were just straight up like, we're gonna go murder people for some money, I think a lot of people would be like, hey, that's like crazy, man. But if they're like, no, they're not real people, they're like savages, and we're like saving them with our gold and our guns, don't worry guys, then they'll be like, oh, okay, thank you. You see what I mean? It's manipulation. It's nonsense. And slavery and in the enslavement of people did exist throughout human history before the transatlantic slave trade. However, it was not really built on the base of someone's race. And the transatlantic slave trade was just an enormous tragedy where people from various countries in Africa were kidnapped and taken to the Americas. I believe most of them ended up in Brazil. Horrible. I believe like 18 million died, and it's just like a tragedy that is understudied and it's a huge tragedy that is not spoken about enough. And that the transatlantic slave trade was brought on because people wanted to exploit others for free labor, and they did so by making it a moral issue that these people are not white, that these people are not European. Sometimes I can't even believe that happened. Like, I am living in the same world where people thought it was okay, and people still think it's okay. Have you read the 13th Amendment? 13th Amendment! Like, prisons are for profit, and they jail so many people who don't need to be jailed for the most ridiculous crimes, and they jail them based off white supremacist values in order to still get the free labor. Like, but they say like, oh, like, it's okay because these people are criminals. And y'all gotta watch 13th Amendment, 13th on Netflix. It breaks all this shit down. I'm telling you, it's like psychotic when you actually start thinking about it, and you start thinking about the fact that these people are like alive today. Like the South African apartheid, like that didn't even end that long ago. And then Palestine, I cannot believe that people are actually insane. But that's white supremacy bad is what I'm trying to say. And capitalism caused it. And so fuck capitalism, fuck white supremacy, fuck Ronald Reagan. I hate him. Capitalism wanted free labor and allowed white supremacy to make that okay. Capitalism also wants free land and allowed white supremacy to make that okay with things like the Manifest Destiny, which was the westward expansion of white settlers in the US, taking indigenous land, brutally destroying indigenous communities on the basis of like, well, we're Christian and we're white and God said we could have it. But in reality, y'all just want that fucking money. So white people just went in and were like, oop, this is our land because God said so. And God only told us, you guys can't speak to God. It's like, oh, well, we're better than you because we're white and we're Christian. So they just took a bunch of people's land and brutally murdered a ton of people and ruined communities. It's a good thing that doesn't happen anymore, right? It's a good thing nothing like that is happening in the Middle East, right, guys? It's a good thing no white supremacists are just taking other people's land because God told them to, right? That's definitely not happening right now, right? Basically, the capitalist market allowed for there to be it constructed a white supremacist society in order to stay functioning, because in capitalism there needs to be a hierarchy so that the people at the top can keep at the top and they can exploit people and have it be morally justified and have it be okay. And not to mention white supremacy, how capitalism goes is that they make things, they take things for the idea of profit, not because it needs to be made or it needs to be done. On indigenous land, land, and in lots of indigenous beliefs that I know of, the land is meant to be cared for, it's meant to be sacred, it's meant to grow what you need, and it gives to the people and the people give in return. Capitalism is just like, let's plow over this bitch and make an AI farm, because why the fuck not? White people, y'all gonna give me a headache. Y'all already gave me trauma. Up next, a headache. What's funny, okay, this part is kind of funny, and then I'm gonna stop talking about, and okay, I'm gonna start talking about Shrek in just a minute. What's also, kind of humorous to me, but just like really fucked up if you really just think about it for like 3 seconds, is that white lower class people, no one's a monolith, right? I'm not saying every single person who's white and lower class does this, but a lot of them look to the white elites for guidance or community, when instead of looking to those in the same class as them who just have different racial backgrounds or different cultural backgrounds or ethnic backgrounds. And I can't help but think that because of the racial superiority that white supremacy instills in just like worldwide now, it's not like contained in just Western societies, it's like everywhere, that white lower class people find community or pulled towards someone based on the identity that they share, that is race, versus the identity that they share, which is class. And I gotta say, race is a social construct, but money is real, debt is real, fucking rent is real, just saying, wages are real. And it reminds me of an Audre Lorde quote, which is that it's like, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. They may allow us to temporarily beat him at his own game, but they will never enable us to bring about genuine change. And what that quote is saying, at least to me, is that you can look to those elites all you want, but if you stand by their side, or if you try to follow them or use their tactics against them, it's not going to work, because those tactics and the society that they have built is fundamentally meant to keep majority of the people down. If profit is the only motive, what makes anyone think that they're going to care about anyone but themselves? White elites probably don't even care about other white elites. They just care about themselves. The bottom line is, racism bad, okay? You with me so far? So now that we covered what capitalism is, what white supremacy is, and how those two intersect, let's talk about how they show that in Shrek 2. For those of you who haven't seen Shrek 2, I encourage you to go watch it, because you're gonna be really just like, what? During this whole video, and it's gonna have a lot of spoilers. So go watch Shrek 2 if you haven't already. And if you don't want to watch it and you just want to watch this video because of my face, you're in luck. So the fairy godmother represents capitalism in Shrek 2. It's fairly obvious, but I'm gonna run through it really quickly. There is a giant gaudy billboard that is our character introduction to the fairy godmother, which is already, she's trying to sell herself, she's trying to sell her potions. The fairy godmother is a brand. It is not an actual person. And it is a brand for the purpose of profit, because not to mention profit equals power in a capitalist society. And fairy godmother visits Fiona when Fiona's crying because her dad is the worst, which, hey girl, I've been there. Godmother sings this whole song, and one of the lyrics in the song is, "You'll land a man with a ton of cash." You'll land a prince with a ton of cash. Once again stating that money is the most important thing, and she is the one perpetuating that ideology. She sings this whole song about what Fiona needs, but Fiona says, I don't really need all that, and fairy godmother is distraught.
I really don't need all this.
Because fairy godmother, for capital, it's like, it's marketing. Capitalists tell you what you need, or they purposefully create the market so that they create the culture, they create the society so that you have to buy from them. All these makeup products, because we all want to have that white Eurocentric beauty. And how much money do we pay for it? Ton, right? Same thing that fairy godmother is trying to tell Fiona, you need this, you need that, you need a cute little man named Kyle with a tight butt. And it's like, no, I actually don't want that. Even though I don't think you should buy Kyle. I don't know. I don't really understand the rules of Far, Far Away, but I think that is a little bit weird. Later in the movie, Puss, Shrek, and Donkey are visiting fairy godmother's cottage, in which Puss says this.
She's the largest producer of hexes and potions in the whole kingdom.
But fairy godmother is the largest producer of hexes and potions. Not to mention, she has a big ass factory. That little cottage is just for marketing purposes so that the people can trust her more. I'm just saying that. But fairy godmother is constantly saying, oh, the prince and the princess live happily ever after, and you have to look like this, and you have to be that, and you have to smell like this. And with that song that she gave Fiona, if Fiona had bought the kind of idea she was selling, she'd buy a lot more from that factory. It's a freaking freaking monopoly. I don't know do not mention a single other business in this world that sells hexes and potions. She's full on monopoly. She owns everything. She runs everything. In the whole movie, she's trying to get even more power so that she can get even more money. That isn't enough. The receptionist is very intrigued by Shrek pretending to be a union representative, in which he says he feels degraded and oppressed.
We don't even have dental.
And they don't even have dental. At least, so it's clear that Fairy Godmother in Far, Far Away represents capitalism. We said capitalism breeds white supremacy. So where's the white supremacy in Far, Far Away? If not already obvious. I have split up the, I guess, white supremacy-ness in Far, Far Away into 3 categories: classism, racism, and homophobia. Some of these may overlap, as intersectionality has shown us. These problems always intersect. You can't fight one without fighting the other. You can't have one without having the other. They feed into each other, and we should all be making an effort to fight all of them. I will say, so starting with classism shown in Far, Far Away. Shrek could only reach Far, Far Away when given the adequate resources. Far, Far Away is far, far away. And it kind of reminds me of like things like redlining, where you have poor neighborhoods, urban neighborhoods, farther away from the suburbs, from the rich gated communities. They are purposefully separated. Not only that, but Far, Far Away is modeled after the Beverly Hills, Melrose area of Los Angeles. If you don't know about the history of Beverly Hills, it was created by real estate developers who purchased the lands in the 1900s and purposefully made to be a whites-only area. They wanted an affluent, whites-only, restrictive neighborhood that did not allow people of color or Jewish people to live there. So not only that, but the rest of Los Angeles is heavily Black and Latino. In the late 19th century, early 20th centuries, lots of Black people had migrated to the Los Angeles area in order to escape the Jim Crow laws that had taken over the South. And Mexican immigrants arrived in the earliest 20th century to the Los Angeles area. That better opportunities that were reinforced by programs such as, and I'm gonna say this wrong, the Bracero program. I'm sorry. And this program was created in World War II in order to address labor shortages. It allowed Mexican immigrants to work as farmers in the Los Angeles area. Or I believe in the US as a whole. So you have a huge community, a huge county of people who are of racially oppressed backgrounds, and then you have this little area in it where it's like white people only, rich people only, and the fact that Far, Far Away is modeled after that white, rich people only area, and it's not a coincidence, okay? Far, Far Away is racist as hell and classist as hell. I know this was supposed to be about classism, this section, but like I said, classism, racism, homophobia, they feed into each other. I'm just saying. And Beverly Hills is so freaking expensive. Oh my god. It's literally, that place is ridiculous. It's like you need $1 billion just to breathe there. Not only that, but like when Fiona and Shrek are having dinner with Fiona's parents, they ask about where Fiona lives, and Fiona chooses her words very carefully to make Shrek's swamp a little more palatable, and Shrek follows suit.
Shrek owns his own land.
It's in an enchanted forest, abundant in squirrels and cute little duckies.
And this just shows that this kind of culture, this kind of family, the people living in Far, Far Away, have a very specific expectation for how someone should be living. Doesn't matter how much they enjoy the swamp. The fact that it's a swamp is just embarrassing enough to them. And they're hiding the class level that they live in and they have accepted, but the people around them cannot accept because it's gross. Ew. You're a different class than me? Shut up. Why don't you go brush your hair? Your hair is ugly. Go brush it. I don't know what I'm saying. That's just like the only insult in my brain right now. One of my this is the last and one of my favorite examples. Puss in Boots attacks his own. There are little to no fairy tale creatures in Far, Far Away, and the ones that are there are kind of hanging out at the seedy bar on the outskirts of town. And Puss in Boots is willing to attack his own, a fairy tale creature, because he needed gold. He just said, it's nothing personal, I just need the money.
It was nothing personal, senor. The king offered me margin gold.
It's like you're turning on your own people in the hopes of, raising your class status? And I get that, capitalism makes him do that. It's just like like the same thing. Like people in the same class are going to turn on each other in order to listen or appease the people of the upper echelon. Why? They're stupid and you're better than them. Don't please them. Please yourself. Now let's get into the racism. 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 I'm not excited about racism. We're getting into it in Shrek 2. Like I said before, there are no little to no fairy tale creatures in Far, Far Away. There are also no non-white humans in Far, Far Away. I watched the movie like 10 times before making this video. I cannot find a human being who's not like even dark-skinned Italian. Like that, they don't exist for some reason. So yeah, Far, Far Away is only white humans. It is modeled after the Beverly Hills neighborhood, which was created to be a whites-only neighborhood essentially. And later, when Fiona and Shrek are arguing because for some reason Fiona's mad that her dad's racist, but she's mad at Shrek, which is like ridiculous, but whatever. She throws the ogre insult at Shrek.
You're behaving like an ogre.
And it's funny because Fiona's also an ogre, but she has something to hide behind. She throws out that stereotype as an insult to him. He's allowed to act like that. It is human nature, ogre nature, whatever being nature, to be upset that everyone wants to kill you all the time and that everyone includes your in-laws. And yet she's throwing it in his face. She didn't say her dad's acting like an ogre. Her dad was worse. Throwing it in his face, perpetuating the racial stereotypes that she grew up with, even though she is also right now an ogre. But she has that human side to hide behind. She grew up as a human for the most part. It's just racism, frankly. And I think that this could go in classism or racism, but it's funny that King Harold, I think that this actually more so goes in classism, so I apologize, but I put it in racism. King Harold is upset that Fiona has married an ogre, that she has married essentially a fairy tale creature, because he kept saying she was supposed to kiss the prince we wanted, she was supposed to kiss Prince Charming, it was supposed to be this human, white, Aryan man.
She was supposed to choose the prince we picked out for her.
The queen reminds him of his frog path, and he's like, no, that doesn't matter, that's not the same.
It's not the same.
Rules for thee, but not for me. And it reminds me of when anyone of any oppressed group, especially in America, when they climb the ladder, they pull the ladder up from under them. It's like you climb that ladder and then you betray the people in your own group for the sake of what? The welcoming and acceptance of white supremacist culture. It's like, okay, man, you win. Go hang out with your little white hooded buddies. Dude, the king literally bothers me this whole fucking movie. I'm so happy he dies in the third one because I had enough of him. And the king constantly perpetuates this. He later tells Fiona, isn't it in his nature to be a brute?
It is in his nature to be, well, a bit of a brute.
Which then we physically see where Fiona gets this idea that ogres are and it's from her father. And she couldn't even snap out. She had all this internalized racism, internalized hatred because she herself is an ogre. And Shrek goes through all this hoopla in order to conform, because even the donkey points out, you love being an ogre.
You love being an ogre. I know, but I love Fiona more.
He's like, yeah, but I cannot survive in this society without conforming. And that's not just the physical racism, the biological racism, but it's the cultural racism. He has to be a completely different person or else people will not accept him. He can't be just of his own culture, his own background, I'm just gonna live in my swamp and love it and burp at the dinner table. No, it has to be like, you have to be proper and you have to be meh. And it's like, where do you summer? Where do you summer? Where do you winter? Shut up. No one cares. I'm going on a lot of rants. And I apologize. And after Shrek takes the potion, he is treated way better than he was at the beginning. At the beginning, they had their pitchforks ready to go.
Let's go before they light the torches.
There's a crying baby. No one wanted him there. And then he changed his physical features, and all of a sudden people like him. People are not threatened by him. Biological racism in the works right there. And so he changed how he looked, but he couldn't change who he is. And Fairy Godmother told him, no amount of potion can change the fact that you really are an ogre deep inside.
And you're an ogre. That's something no amount of potion is ever going to change.
That is the cultural racism. Who you are and who you were raised as is not good enough to live in our society. Bullshit. Rude bullshit. And Fairy Godmother dies too, so I don't care. Let's get into the homophobia of Shrek 2. The Homophobia, in my opinion, really just revolves around Fiona. Her parents sent her away in order to be fixed because she kept turning into an ogre. To me, this mirrors conversion therapy, conversion camp, what have you. They send their child away in order to be fixed because they're not supposed to be like this. And then after she comes back, she's not fixed. She accepts her ogre self. And her dad is all up in arms saying she should have chosen the prince we picked out for her. She should have chosen this prince. She should have chosen this prince. We wanted this specific life for her. She comes back, and instead of changing how we wanted her to change, she accepts who she is, and we don't like that. It's a little bit less than the overt racism and classism shown in Shrek 2, but it's still there. Not just that, but Fiona's diary from childhood is full of her and Prince Charming being this happy family.
My handsome Prince Charming will rescue me from my tower and bring me back to my family, and we'll all live happily ever after.
It's like when we're kids, we're told a man and a woman, and how many kids are like 6 years old and they're like, are you dating anyone? Do you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend yet? And it's like all this like heterosexual nonsense in our faces, and then we draw that in our little journals, and then she grew up and she realized she doesn't want the Prince Charming life. She wants the ogre life, which I think is her realizing, if we're gonna put metaphors in it, it's her realizing her sexuality, coming back from the tower, accepting herself, and not wanting that life that her parents told her she had to want. So now that we see the racism, classism, homophobia, the whole white supremacist nonsense in Far, Far Away, and we see how Fairy Godmother represents capitalism, let's talk about how Fairy Godmother is the one who had a hand in forming these oppressive ideologies and white supremacy, human supremacy, if you will, in Far, Far Away, and as a result, in other kingdoms throughout the land. Fairy Godmother over and over again shows that she has made a deal with the king. It is later revealed that the deal was that she turned him into a human from a frog so that he could have the life he always wanted.
We made a deal, Harold, and I assume you don't want me to go back on my part. So Fiona and Charming will be together.
She could have just given him a potion, not even had him pay for it. She has set up this world and poisoned the king's mind with non-human creatures do not get a happy ever after. They are side hoes, they are villains, they're just a stepping stone on the way to the real happy ever after. And as a result, the king was desperate and willing to essentially Rumpelstiltskin this shit and give up his firstborn child to the Fairy Godmother. Because the firstborn child, Fiona, was supposed to marry Prince Charming, who is the Fairy Godmother's son. And this kind of a deal gives the Fairy Godmother more access to power. It gives her the ability to control the governing body, which is the monarchy of King Harold and Queen, what's her name, Rhonda? I don't know, Elizabeth. Oh, Lillian, her name's Lillian, and Queen Lillian, so that there's little to no government intervention. No one can get in the way of her business. Do you see where I'm going? See where I'm going with this? She's a fucking bitch, okay? Fairy Godmother's bitch. Not just that, but when Shrek goes to Fairy Godmother to ask her for help, because Shrek's willing to change, willing to be like, okay, Fairy Godmother, let's white supremacist this shit, okay? How do I change? Fairy Godmother over and over again shows him examples where ogres don't get a happy ending. These kinds of fairy tale creatures just don't get a happy ending, so she can't help him.
Ogres don't live happily ever after.
She realistically can help him. It's just if she did, her whole culture and society that she has built will fall apart, because like she was singing in the song, all these ideas fills people's heads with ideas that you need this to be happy. And if people realize I actually don't need that to be happy, she gonna go out of business. Do you understand? Because Fairy Godmother will not give Shrek what he needs in order to conform to her societal standards, by the way, he steals one potion. Yes, he makes a mess in the process, but we all make messes. You can't cry over spilled potion, okay? He steals it because he wants to make Fiona happy. He doesn't understand what's going on. He doesn't know the little strings that fucking Fairy Godmother's pulling, because she is a bitch. And as a result gets ruthlessly manhandled by the police that which Fairy Godmother called on him. If anything, Fairy Godmother should be arrested for being annoying. Shrek is arrested for stealing something he needed because he was honestly backed into a corner. You can't just tell someone, go live a miserable life and allow them to accept it. Sometimes in this real world, people steal because they need shit. They need shit and they can't afford it because the capitalists won't let them afford it. But then because they steal shit, the capitalists get them arrested. But I will say that a lot of people who get arrested for petty theft and for like the shittiest crimes that don't even need jail time go to prison and end up having to give free labor to capitalists. So at the end of the day, the capitalists win and they more than likely promote and support the system of just ruthlessly throwing people in prison in order to get their profit. Not to mention prison is privately owned. This part I really like, which is that Fairy Godmother's son, Charming, he's probably a capitalist, yes, but Fairy Godmother has also filled his head with nonsense. He comes into the factory after Shrek robs it and goes on this blah 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 rant saying that he's gonna kill Shrek because Shrek stole what is rightfully his.
He will rue the very day he stole my kingdom from me.
That reminds me a lot of when people are like, immigrants are stealing our jobs and we have a right to these jobs. No, you don't. You don't have a right to jack shit, okay? It's like they are fighting each other and the capitalists put the stupidest ideas in these white supremacists' heads so they can fight the immigrants who's getting lower wages, by the way, instead of fighting the actual capitalists and fighting the 1%. Prince Charming is literally like, he should have just fought his own mom. I do that all the time. Just kidding. My mom watches these. I love you, Mom. Godmother continues behind the scenes to use her resources and blackmail the governing body, which is the king and the queen, in order for her to get more power and more profit.
You remember, I helped you with your happily ever after, and I can take it away just as easily.
And what's worth noting is that she's doing all these evil things behind the scenes, but when she gets to the red carpet, she is adored. People think that she's fixing their lives, out of the kindness of her own heart, that, she's the reason we can all live happily ever after. She's actually the reason that you even think that you need something specific to live happily ever after in the first place. She is not helping you. She's helping herself. And it's like when people are like, oh my God, I love the CEO of this. I love this girl boss. Oh my God, my comfort billionaire. I'm going to need you all to get a lobotomy ASAP. Like right now. Okay? That's insane. Now, up until the end of the movie, she's winning. Shrek can't beat her. Fiona can't beat her. Harold can't beat her. No matter how much people want to defeat her, she is just too powerful to go toe to toe with any of these people, at least individually. Now, might be because this is just a movie, or it might be because this is how it works in real life. But once the fairy tale creatures band together, that's when shit starts going their way. The fairy tale creatures work together to get Shrek, Puss, and Donkey out of the jail. And it seems impossible to get into that castle.
It's impossible. Castle is guarded and there is a moat and everything.
But once the fairy tale creatures work together and use all their resources at hand, their resources aren't perfect, but they use what they can to infiltrate this society of humans only. They finally get in. And it's worth noting, Shrek is human. He gets into the castle first. He very easily could have left the fairy tale people outside and gone after them himself and just been like, well, I'm human. They're gonna let me through. But these fairy tale creatures, I don't know about having them. He could have pulled the ladder up from under him as well as soon as he got in. But he didn't. He opened the drawbridge. They all came flooding in. And then, at the end of the awesome song, I Need a Hero.
C minor, put it in C minor.
Oh, that was the only good thing Fairy Godmother did this whole movie. Everything else was trash, and I hate her. All the fairy tale creatures work together to get the wand from Fairy Godmother so she can't threaten anyone anymore. But it's worth noting that she did not get truly defeated until the last fairy tale creature gave himself and sacrificed himself for the greater good of the cause, okay? That fairy creature is Harold. He gave up his privilege, he gave up his human life in order to save another fairy tale creature. And I think that what that shows is when we build communities, they are one of the key fighting chances we have against capitalism, white supremacy, anything that stands to gain from dismantling community. The example I gave earlier with the Southern Farmers Alliance. Imagine if they weren't racist and they allowed farmers of all backgrounds to come together. Imagine what they could have gotten out of that, out of their demands, out of their strikes, out of their union. But instead, when we give in to this idea that I'm better than this or she's better than that or everyone's better than everyone or there has to be some sort of hierarchy, we allow the people who don't care about us to win even more. We are not going to have some sort of solidarity or some sort of safe haven with the very people who set up systems to make sure that we are forever on the bottom. They set up systems to make sure that we are forever fighting each other instead of fighting them. Because they don't care. They don't care about us. Moral of the story is don't go to LA. Just stay in your swamp. You don't need to go to Beverly Hills. Shrek 2 taught me a lot of things. But it mainly taught me that community has to stick together in the face of discrimination and that people from all different backgrounds deserve a fighting chance to have a happily ever after without having to change themselves or conform into something that kills their soul, essentially. And for that reason, I am forever grateful for Shrek 2. Not just for being one of the lights of my childhood, but for giving me a fighting chance in fighting the ideologies of white supremacy and capitalism. Thank you. Also, like, a brown girl, like, she's not gonna want white supremacy. That is just like a given, but you know what I mean. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope it made sense. I'm sorry I ranted a little bit. Racism gets me going, guys. Racism gets me going. Please don't forget that racism, classism, homophobia, misogyny, ableism, all these things are intersectional and they are feeding into one another. And please don't forget that capitalism is not on your side. It's not on anyone's side. It's on profit's side. So don't let that get you down, shawty. Don't let it get you down. Please remember that being you is one of the best ways to fight, and your finding your community, your real community, is also one of the best ways to fight. Don't give up the fight. Keeps going, and it keeps just getting better, hopefully. Find those people. Find your people in your swamp. Stay out of LA, and remember that you don't need a hero. You just need yourself. Hope you have a good morning, afternoon, evening, night, whenever and wherever you're watching this, and I'll see you in my next video for the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. Bye. You don't need a hero, 'cause you're gonna fight capitalism by yourself, but you need a community who's gonna help you take down white supremacy. That was really good. Oh my god.